fire broke out at home. Ignoring the crowd, the girl and her mother rushed in to save her brother. The next second, the brother's voice suddenly rang out. Confirming he was safe, the mother and daughter excitedly ran to him. Beyond Mireille, her mother and brother lived in a rented apartment. To earn money for the family and send her brother to university, Beyond Mireille worked tirelessly, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours a day. One morning, she woke up to find she was nearly late for work. She rushed out and barely made it to the company on time. Just after a chaotic morning, the company president suddenly inspected the store and called for an emergency assembly. Beyond Mireille stood in line with everyone as the president inspected the supermarket's food. At the seafood section, staff shook a dead crab vigorously to fake it being alive, but the president exposed their trick and questioned if customers were also deceived this way. Moving to the fruit section, he immediately spotted rotten produce. Vegetables and meats were not exempt. Any issues found led to the immediate dismissal of responsible staff. Beyond Mireille silently prayed her section wouldn't be inspected. Next, the president precisely walked to the rice cake section, where Beyond Mireille's mother was offering samples to children. He accused Beyond Mireille of running a charity kitchen, not a store. Beyond Mireille explained that offering samples was a marketing strategy. Just then, the children she had given samples to brought their mothers to buy rice cakes. A mother asked why the rice cakes made with leftover sauce at home didn't taste the same as those in the store. Beyond Mireille's mother quickly introduced a special vegetarian rice that paired well with the rice cakes. Seeing the sales of both rice cakes and rice rise, Beyond Mireille seized the moment to tell the president about her plan to bundle rice cakes and rice for sales next quarter. The president was pleased with her strategy and remembered her name. After he left, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, due to lack of sleep and overwork, Beyond Mireille suddenly fainted. In a blur, she felt someone carrying her. His sturdy body and broad shoulders made her feel safe. When Beyond Mireille woke up, a man was standing by her hospital bed. She tried to thank him but was gently pushed back down. He introduced himself as the store's security staff and mentioned that the doctor had instructed her to rest. Beyond Mireille thanked him for bringing her to the hospital and asked him to leave. Just as he left, she received a call from her mother about the fire. Despite feeling unwell, Beyond Mireille hurried home. The mother and daughter confirmed that her brother and the dog were safe, relieving their worries. Neighbors watched the building nervously. Oddly, only the landlord's room was on fire. Other rooms were unaffected. Soon, the landlord's body was carried out. That morning, Beyond Mireille had seen the landlord at the window. Just a few hours later, they were worlds apart, leaving her deeply saddened. No one knew that a man in black knocked on the landlord's door in the morning. The landlord complained about his return and tried to close the door, but the man blocked it and forcefully entered the room. Some neighbors found this fire suspicious. It occurred during the day when most tenants were at work, and the fire did not spread to adjacent rooms, suggesting it was arson. Despite skepticism about this speculation, the tenants were shocked when the agent informed them that the landlord's daughter had sold the apartment cheaply. The new landlord wanted to meet 3 tenants, including Beyond Mireille's family. The next day, Beyond Mireille's mother and 2 other tenants met the new landlord. A man appeared and got straight to the point. He wanted to move in, but the burnt room was uninhabitable. Their leases were expiring soon, and he hoped one of them would move out to make room for him. Beyond Mireille's mother, a single parent, was worried as she had finally settled down with her 2 children and did not want to search for another house. She instructed her son not to tell Beyond Mireille about this, as she was already working hard to support the family. Beyond Mireille's mother tried to renew the lease with the old landlord's daughter, but it was futile as the property had been transferred. The old landlord's daughter needed to sell the house due to financial difficulties. Faced with no other options, Beyond Mireille's mother shared the news with a female neighbor who was also facing eviction. This neighbor seemed relaxed, having already sent a flattering message with a selfie to the landlord to plead her case, which apparently worked. After meeting another neighbor who was trying to win over the new landlord with gifts and her child's drawings, Beyond Mireille's mother felt desperate. The other 2 had special tactics, and it seemed they would be the only ones forced to move. To change her fate, she messaged the new landlord, describing her struggles as a single mother and hinting they might end up in dire straits if evicted. The new landlord did not respond. Unknown to her, the man they had met was not the landlord, but his assistant. Meanwhile, Beyond Mireille, unaware of the family's situation, managed to dine out with friends. They asked if her ex-boyfriend was still bothering her. She recalled her ex, a mama's boy, who once snagged his long nails on her clothes and whom she had asked to cut his nails. Despite her declaring her intention to remain unmarried, he had created a scene demanding marriage after 100 days of dating, pressured by his father's wish for him to marry before retiring. Bien-Mireille decisively chose to break up, always lamenting her poor choice in men, despite her proven work abilities. Upon returning home, she found the table filled with offerings for her father's upcoming death anniversary. Bien-Mireille had previously declared to her brother that she would never hold a memorial service for their father. Years ago, her father had visited her once, but harboring resentment, she refused to speak to him. 10 years later, the family saw news of their father's fatal car accident on TV, stirring mixed feelings. Knowing Bien-Mireille held a grudge, her mother explained that holding the memorial was meant to let Bien-Mireille and her brother properly say goodbye to their father. Seeing her mother's increasingly aged face, Bien-Mireille recalled every stage of her upbringing with her mother always by her side, appearing like a superhero whenever she called. This compelled her not to refuse her mother's request. The family of 3 held the memorial service. Bien-Mireille and her brother bowed to their father as their mother, following tradition, cried loudly and urged them to do the same to appease the spirit. Her brother then thought he saw their father at the door and shouted about a ghostly appearance. However, when Bien-Mireille and her mother looked, they were stunned. The man at the door was not a spirit, but very much alive. Bien-Mireille's mother was so startled she nearly fainted. Bien-Mireille, their father, dashed forward in a heroic attempt to help. None of them expected the supposedly deceased father to be alive, much less to find out he was the new landlord of the apartment. The once poor husband had not only become a billionaire, but also the landlord of the entire building, now holding power over their lives. Bien-Mireille had miraculously returned, revealing the reasons behind the couple's divorce. He was an unsettled man focused on starting businesses, but failed repeatedly. His last venture was a snack bar, which his wife supported by investing their savings and taking out loans. The snack bar did well, providing hope for a stable life. But Bien-Mireille's previous debts came calling, and creditors destroyed the snack bar, shattering their hopes. Disappointed in her father, Bien-Mireille angrily expelled him from their home, leading to the divorce between her mother, Guillaume and Bien-Mireille. Acknowledging his faults, Bien-Mireille left the children's custody to Guillaume. At their separation, Guillaume sternly told him that her greatest fortune was her children and hoped Bien-Mireille would not disturb their lives. 10 years later, they saw a news report of a car accident involving Bien-Mireille's vehicle and thought he had died, only to discover not only was he alive, but had also become their wealthy landlord. Seeing their father wealthy, the son eagerly approached him. Bien-Mireille and her mother were cold and distant, determined to distance themselves from the man. They decided to immediately find a new place to move out. Bien-Mireille did not explain much, but wanting to be neighbors with his family, began renovating a fire-damaged room using his financial power. The room was quickly transformed. Bien-Mireille also splurged in shopping malls, purchasing anything he liked regardless of the price. His son, attracted by his father's financial capabilities, not only helped with the move, but also boasted about having a wealthy father on social media. In contrast, Bien-Mireille and her mother were not optimistic. They promised in front of their father to move out by the weekend, but after several days of searching, they couldn't find a suitable place they could afford. The curious neighbors got involved, discussing Bien-Mireille, who was once poor but now a billionaire. They speculated on how he became rich, suggesting stocks or Bitcoin. One neighbor, who had always suspected the previous landlord died in an arson, believed Bien-Mireille could be the suspect. An old man also felt Bien-Mireille looked familiar but couldn't recall where he had seen him. The neighbors, having lived in the nearby community, thought it normal to recognize each other. But the old man felt something was off. The chubby neighbor gossiped about Guillaume becoming the apartment's lady, and she, amused, said she would move out soon. The neighbor advised her to demand a considerable amount of child support, given the man's wealth. Guillaume didn't care about the money. She just wanted their life to remain undisturbed. As she was leaving, Bien-Mireille suddenly appeared behind her and asked why she hadn't inquired about his past 10 years. Guillaume said she didn't care as it was irrelevant to her. However, Byun Moo-jin persisted, asking if she had missed him. Looking at him, Gyum Aeon's expression was a mix of love and hate. Byun Moo-jin urged them to stay, offering them rent-free living. Gyum Aeon, worried about her limited bank savings, knew moving again would drain her finances and increase her daughter's burdens. Indeed, Byun Mi-rae was stressed, busy with work and unsettled housing, causing her daily anxiety. She didn't notice the man sharing the elevator, who had taken her to the hospital previously. He saw she was preoccupied and pressed the elevator button for her without initiating conversation. While some secretly helped, others openly caused trouble. One day, her ex-boyfriend suddenly appeared at her office. Byun Mi-rae was annoyed and tried to dismiss him, but he suddenly shouted, drawing everyone's attention. As the crowd gathered, he approached Byun Mi-rae and told her he wanted to break up, thinking it was logical to progress from dating to marriage. Byun Mi-rae was only interested in dating, not marriage, causing him pain. She had clearly stated she wouldn't marry before their relationship was official. Surrounded by colleagues, Byun Mi-rae felt extremely embarrassed. To get rid of the scum, she yelled out that she was willing to be considered the one dumped, just to stop her ex from bothering her. After her ex left, Byun Mi-rae stormed off but fell due to her haste. As she was getting up to hail a taxi, Tai-ping, who had witnessed the scene, appeared on his bicycle and offered her a ride. He had also taken her to the hospital previously and had paid for her medical expenses. Byun Mi-rae, recognizing him, wanted to repay him but found her wallet empty and promised to transfer the money soon. Tai-ping handed her a bandage for her leg wound. She politely thanked him without questioning why he cared. Back home, unaware of her mother's wavering feelings, Byun Mi-rae and her mother went to view a house. Byun Mi-rae liked it, but her mother complained about high maintenance and electricity costs. Frustrated, Byun Mi-rae suspected her mother was attracted to her father's wealth like her brother and didn't want to move. They argued and parted unhappily. To vent, Gyum Aeon went to play baseball, constantly recalling the scene of her husband reappearing. Determined not to let this man affect her life anymore, she arranged a meeting with him. It was late. Her mother hadn't returned, and no one answered the phone. Byun Mi-rae went out to find her. Meanwhile, her parents were drinking at a restaurant. Gyum Aeon confronted Byun Moo-jin, suspecting he knew they lived in the apartment when he bought it. Byun Moo-jin laughed, claiming it was a coincidence. However, Gyum Aeon knew he was lying because he hummed before lying, a habit he hadn't lost. Caught, Byun Moo-jin admitted he bought the apartment knowing they lived there. As they argued, Byun Mi-rae shouted for him to let go. As she angrily rushed towards her father, Tai-ping, who had been teaching upstairs, intervened and knocked Byun Moo-jin down, attempting to protect Gyum Aeon. Gyum Aeon pushed Tai-ping away, anxiously checked on Byun Moo-jin, realizing they were Byun Mi-rae's parents. Embarrassed, Tai-ping felt awkward. Byun Mi-rae, furious with her father for disrupting their lives again, pushed her father, who had just stood up, back to the ground. Meanwhile, an old man, having finished his drink, remembered seeing Byun Moo-jin the day before the apartment fire, helping a drunk landlord walk, identifying him as the new landlord. Nam Tae-pyong and Byun Mi-rae work at the same supermarket where he is a security guard in the morning and a taekwondo instructor in the evening. Nam Tae-pyong, known for his good looks, always attracts a crowd of female fans. During a busy day, Nam Tae-pyong notices Byun Mi-rae nearby and quickly approaches her to apologize for accidentally hurting her father. Instead, Byun Mi-rae pulls him aside and urges him not to mention her father to anyone, stating that Nam Tae-pyong doesn't need to apologize and that she actually appreciated his intervention. Unlike her resolute daughter, Gyum Aeon decides to face reality. She sends away prospective tenants and announces that she will not sell their apartment. She explains to her daughter that saving on rent could help alleviate Byun Mi-rae's financial burdens. Byun Mi-rae suggests applying for a loan to find a new apartment, but with existing debts, the bank would not approve additional loans. Suspecting her mother wants to stay because of her father, Byun Mi-rae accuses her of wanting to reunite with him, which offends Gyum Aeon. In a heated moment, Gyum Aeon angrily asks her daughter to repeat what she said, prompting Byun Mi-rae to quickly change the subject. Byun Mi-rae visits Byun Moo-jin and confronts him about not paying any child support since the divorce, leaving only a wedding ring. She demands back payments, but Byun Moo-jin refuses, stating his intentions to reunite with Gyum Aeon. Sensing his daughter's concerns about losing her mother, Byun Moo-jin suggests a bet. If he fails to reconcile with Gyum Ae-yeon within 4 weeks, he will pay the overdue child support. Byun Mi-rae proposes using the apartment to offset the child support, which Byun Moo-jin agrees to and includes in a written agreement. They sign the agreement stipulating that if the couple reunites, the children must join them. Byun Moo-jin gets the agreement notarized early in the morning. Byun Mi-rae takes the agreement and pays the rent to her father, making it clear she does not want his help. Byun Moo-jin asks if she wants to add any other conditions, but Byun Mi-rae's request remains the same as years ago. She wants her father to stay away from the family until his death. Byun Mi-rae, aware that her struggle against her father is ongoing, orders a large iced Americano to stay alert and energized for her bet with Byun Moo-jin, aiming to keep him out of her and her mother's lives. Meanwhile, Byun Moo-jin plans how to win back his wife, unaware of the rumors about him spreading in the apartment building. An elderly neighbor recalls seeing Byun Moo-jin drinking with the former landlord the day before a fire, suspecting Byun Moo-jin of killing him to take over the apartment. Other residents also express their suspicions about Byun Moo-jin, noting his tattooed arms and his ability to perform 360-degree rotations on the high bar. Another neighbor remembered seeing Byun Moo-jin coming out of the police station and then entering a tofu shop, clearly just released from custody. A third neighbor shared that he saw Byun Moo-jin lighting a match and burning something on the rooftop, likely destroying evidence against himself. After explaining, he produced a bag of used matches he found on the apartment lawn after a fire. Since other residents don't use matches, these were surely Byun Moo-jin's. A female neighbor recalled the former landlord's words that as long as he lived, he would never sell the apartment. The more the neighbors talked, the more convinced they became that Byun Moo-jin had killed the former landlord, and they grew wary of Gyum Ae-yeon, his ex-wife. Unaware of the neighbors' suspicions, the younger brother felt lucky to have a wealthy father and volunteered to help him by delivering rice cakes to the neighbors, who accepted the gifts fearfully, worried about their lives. Byun Moo-jin personally delivered Gyum Ae-yeon's portion, remembering she liked this particular steamed cake. Approaching his ex-wife, Byun Moo-jin tried to charm her, but Gyum Ae-yeon rebuffed him, remarking on his slick ways despite his age. She quickly walked home, unwilling to engage further. The only one willing to talk more with Byun Moo-jin was his son, who held no grudges as he was too young to remember his father's departure. Byun Moo-jin wondered why Gyum Ae-yeon and her daughter chose to stay in that neighborhood and not move elsewhere. The mother and daughter were determined to show their neighbors that, through their own efforts, they could live well. Hearing this, Byun Moo-jin instructed his son to buy the most expensive fruit from the mall to distribute to all neighbors, wanting to support his wife and daughter. On their way back, they encountered a man who was the landlord of the basement where Gyum Ae-yeon and her children had lived. The man, who had harassed Gyum Ae-yeon for her beauty, received a stern warning from Byun Moo-jin, who followed him into his shop and caught him harassing an employee. Byun Moo-jin scolded the man and ordered him not to appear in the neighborhood again. Returning home, Byun Moo-jin ran into a female neighbor from the 3rd floor. They appeared to know each other well, and she promised not to let Gyum Ae-yeon know about their relationship. They would pretend not to know each other in public. Byun Moo-jin asked about her health, which she didn't discuss much. Byun Moo-jin had spent a lot on home appliances for his ex-wife, which he delivered to Gyum Ae-yeon's home. Byun Mi-rae returned from work and was surprised to see them. Gyum Ae-yeon planned to return the gifts untouched, except for a table which she and Byun Mi-rae assembled together. After a busy day, the mother and daughter sat down for a drink, finally relaxing. Byun Mi-rae mused that no matter how modest their life was, as long as the family was together, they could overcome anything. That day at work, Byun Mi-rae stumbled upon major news when the elevator door opened, and she overheard Nam Tae-pyong calling the president father. Realizing their relationship had been exposed, the father and son quickly pulled Byun Mi-rae into the elevator. Nam Tae-pyong asked her not to reveal his relationship with the company president to anyone. Byun Mi-rae understood his situation and agreed to keep his secret. Now, they were even, each holding a secret of the other. The next day, the neighbors gathered together. The rice cakes and fruit sent by the son were untouched. They were too afraid to eat them. However, one neighbor did eat the food and was perfectly fine, which led everyone to continue gossiping. They heard that Byun Moo-jin had fought someone the previous day and had seriously injured them. The neighbors speculated that he might have been violent towards Aeon too, which could be why they divorced. Baeon Mi-rae, on her way to work, heard these rumors. She didn't want her father to disrupt their peaceful life. At the supermarket, another neighbor approached Aeon's stall and loudly accused Baeon Mu-jin of arson. Aeon was confused and didn't understand what she was talking about. Baeon Mu-jin, who was also in the supermarket, heard this and pulled the neighbor aside to talk outside. Baeon Mi-rae arrived just in time to protect her mother, emphasizing that they were strangers to Baeon Mu-jin and that people should not bother her mother. She was fed up with the trouble Baeon Mu-jin always brought to them. To prevent his wife and daughter from being harassed by rumors, Baeon Mu-jin asked a male neighbor to gather everyone together. He took out a match and explained that he carried matches because he was a fan of Chow Yun-fat, not because of arson. He had been with the previous landlord the day before the fire, but had not said it. He had merely persuaded him to sell the apartment. He also had an alibi from the police station. After explaining, he asked the neighbor to bring some alcohol. When the neighbors saw the alcohol and Baeon Mu-jin's serious expression, they were scared, thinking he might ask them to apologize on their knees. However, Baeon Mu-jin intended to invite everyone to drink with him. Furthermore, he sent a message to Baeon Mi-rae, stating that he would never leave their lives. After his explanation, Baeon Mu-jin's relationship with the neighbors eased. One female neighbor specifically came to Aeon to apologize for causing a scene at the supermarket. She playfully poked Aeon and pouted, to which Aeon laughed and said she didn't take it seriously. Living there, Aeon, who seemed easy to bully, was either a target for venting frustrations or the subject of gossip. She joked that if she took it to heart every time, she would die of stress. The female neighbors understood her indirect message but couldn't do much about it. The landlord, intent on reconciling with Aeon, meant no one dared to bother her. Aeon, walking her dog, coincidentally met Baeon Mu-jin going out. Curious about him, she disguised her voice and called Baeon Mu-jin's sister to ask if she knew he had bought an apartment. The sister, unaware of any such purchase, thought it was a scam and angrily hung up. Aeon was curious about what Baeon Mu-jin had gone through to become the person he was today. Baeon Mu-jin remained silent, planning to find the right moment to explain. Now that Baeon Mu-jin's relationship with the neighbors had improved, when they saw Baeon Mi-rae working hard in the street, they joked that she had a rich father and didn't need to work so hard. They suggested she should marry and have children soon. Baeon Mi-rae ignored the comments and continued walking, encountering two male neighbors who morally pressured her with obligations of filial piety, urging her to be dutiful and repay her parents' kindness. Baeon Mi-rae chose not to engage further, respectfully greeted them, and left. Feeling upset, she sought a place to vent and saw Nam Taepyeong at the dojo with wooden boards. Interested in breaking the boards, she followed Nam Taepyeong's instructions and easily split them, improving her mood as they repeatedly broke boards together. While cleaning up, Nam Taepyeong noticed sawdust in her hair and helped her remove it. Afterwards, they walked shoulder to shoulder and unexpectedly ran into a drunk Baeon Mu-jin. Baeon Mu-jin had cleared up misunderstandings with the neighbors and was drinking with his subordinates, discussing how the neighbors were now trying to please him. A female neighbor brought him kimchi, a male neighbor neatly folded his laundry, and an elderly neighbor gifted him homemade liquor. It seemed the neighbors no longer suspected Baeon Mu-jin. However, Baeon Mu-jin was unaware that one male neighbor, in a secret room filled with information related to an arson case, was holding a matchstick as evidence and planning to covertly investigate whether Baeon Mu-jin was the arsonist. Encountering her father unexpectedly, Baeon Mi-rae's emotions were stirred. She did not want to lose to Baeon Mu-jin and wanted him far from their family. Nam Taepyeong advised her to ignore him and focus on her own life. Embracing this, Baeon Mi-rae began practicing ignoring Baeon Mu-jin. The next morning, Baeon Mu-jin gathered the neighbors and offered to waive 3 months of their property fees, which made the neighbors rejoice. However, Baeon Mi-rae was not swayed and stepped forward to pay her property fees, determined to settle every penny with Baeon Mu-jin. Her competition with her father officially began. Each time Baeon Mu-jin tried to invite Aeon for a meal, buy her favorite roast chicken, or take her for a health check, Baeon Mi-rae preempted him, leaving him no opportunity. Perhaps sensing each other's intentions, when Baeon Mu-jin wanted to buy flowers for his ex-wife, Bayon Mi-rae again appeared in time, buying roses before him. Both holding bouquets, they raced to see who could deliver the flowers to Gyum Aeon first. Beon Mu-jin, arriving a step later, dejectedly handed the flowers to Gyum Aeon, hoping just to share a meal with her. Seeing the discord between father and daughter, the younger brother could not stand it and expressed his support for their parents' reconciliation, questioning why Beon Mi-rae refused to accept their father's efforts. Beon Mi-rae changed the subject, advising her soon-to-graduate brother to seek stable employment rather than pursue risky entrepreneurial ventures, reminding him that their family lacked a business mindset. Startled, her brother revealed he was actually considering starting a business after meeting a senior who had opened a cafe in his own building. Inspired, he saw a vision of his successful future, thinking his wealthy father might help him in his entrepreneurial endeavors. Elsewhere, Gyum Aeon saw Beon Mu-jin's subordinate in a dry cleaning shop and curiously followed him, overhearing his phone conversation about the hassle of constantly cleaning up messes for a good reward, though the money came and went quickly. Confused, Gyum Aeon approached him to ask about his relationship with Beon Mu-jin. The subordinate handed her a business card, revealing he was an accountant handling Beon Mu-jin's tax and other affairs, and they were high school classmates. Gyum Aeon inquired about his phone conversation, but the subordinate was reluctant to elaborate. Deciding to confront Beon Mu-jin directly, she left and after shopping, tried calling him, but he didn't answer. Walking through a dark alley, she was suddenly attacked. Meanwhile, Beon Mu-jin, busy buying gifts for his ex-wife, missed the call. He waited outside Gyum Aeon's building, boasting to Beon Mi-rae that Gyum Aeon had called him 5 times. Returning the call, a neighbor answered. Sensing something was wrong, he started searching for Gyum Aeon. Beon Mi-rae and he split up to look for her and soon received a call from the police station. The family rushed there and found Gyum Aeon giving a statement. They thought she had an accident, but learned she was involved in an assault case. Previously, Gyum Aeon had been followed by her former basement landlord, who, upset by Beon Mu-jin's threats, confronted her. Gyum Aeon screamed and defended herself vigorously. Hearing the commotion, 2 female neighbors arrived and chased the man when he tried to flee. Gyum Aeon used a stick and her shoe as weapons, knocking the man down. The women caught him and took him to the police. Despite understanding the situation, Beon Mu-jin's anger was uncontrollable, and he assaulted the man. Later, Gyum Aeon, hearing Beon Mu-jin had been frantically distributing her photos thinking she was missing, thought it was an overreaction. Her brother defended their father, saying he was desperate and crying while searching for her. Watching this, Beon Mi-rae felt moved. After their parents divorced, the family lived in a basement, and Gyum Aeon worked in a restaurant introduced by the lecherous landlord. Beon Mi-rae saw the landlord ordering her mother around and making inappropriate comments, believing he was their benefactor and that Gyum Aeon would eventually comply. Furious, Beon Mi-rae wanted to retaliate but held back, remembering their family's need for income. Over the years, she proved to outsiders that even without a father, their family could thrive. As Beon Mi-rae walked aimlessly, Beon Mu-jin followed, grateful for her taking care of Gyum Aeon and their brother. He apologized for the burdens she shouldered at a young age. Hearing this, Beon Mi-rae sat down and wept, telling herself never to become like her father. Soon, rain began to fall, and Nam Tae-pyeon arrived with an umbrella, squatting in front of Beon Mi-rae to shield her crying face from the neighbors and prevent any gossip. That rainy night, a female neighbor on the 3rd floor drank alone, looking at a photo of herself with Beon Mu-jin. Beon Mu-jin deliberately dressed to impress, wearing a leather outfit, sitting on a motorcycle, waiting for his ex-wife Gyum Aeon by the roadside. Despite his age, Beon Mu-jin still acts mischievously, far from mature or composed. He wanted to dine with Gyum Aeon, who also had something to say. They went to a restaurant, where she advised him not to spend recklessly in case he went bankrupt again. Beon Mu-jin asked for reconciliation so Gyum Aeon could manage him. She denied his request, hoping he would let go of the past and start anew with another woman. Beon Mu-jin insisted, claiming he was no longer the fool who troubled his family, but had become a mature man. Gyum Aeon disagreed, saying he was just wealthier, but otherwise unchanged. She wished Beon Mu-jin would stop bothering her and her daughters, stressing that a parent shouldn't trouble their children, and that he no longer had a place in their home. Beon Mu-jin thought Gyum Ah-yeon was cruel, arguing that if she intended to hurt him, she shouldn't look beautiful and go out with him. Angry, Beon Mu-jin left drunk, returning to his apartment just in time to see Beon Mi-rae installing a camera. Beon Mi-rae nearly fell, but Beon Mu-jin quickly supported her, preventing a fall. After setting up the camera, Beon Mi-rae cleaned up the borrowed ladder, which Beon Mu-jin took over, helping her return it to the rooftop. Caught up in conversation with his daughter, he missed a call from his subordinate, who was anxiously tapping his fingers on the desk, worried Gyum Ah-yeon might accidentally reveal their plans. Comforting himself, the subordinate held Beon Mu-jin's bankbook and seal, keeping control over him. After clarifying things with Beon Mu-jin, Gyum Ah-yeon focused on her children. Early one weekend, she woke her daughter for a picnic in the park with their dog chatting on the ground. Beon Mi-rae wondered if her mother had decided to divorce only because of her insistence, though Gyum Ah-yeon had considered it long before, keeping silent for the sake of her children until she heard Beon Mi-rae's words and decided to ask for a divorce, believing Beon Mu-jin would never change otherwise, and they couldn't lead a normal life. Lying down, Gyum Ah-yeon recalled her busy past raising children, which left no room for loneliness. But now, with time on her hands, she felt accustomed to solitude with age. She hoped Beon Mu-jin would find a good woman to marry, sensing his struggle with loneliness. Listening to Gyum Ah-yeon calmly, Beon Mi-rae felt her mother had moved on from Beon Mu-jin, though she couldn't. Every sight of him angered her. After their mother-daughter outing, Beon Mi-rae was called back to work by her company, and Gyum Ah-yeon walked home alone, pausing at a shop window displaying wedding dresses, reminiscing about her photo shoot with Beon Mu-jin. Pregnant before marriage, she had posed in her wedding dress without a ceremony, hoping to hear her husband's good wishes for their marriage, which Beon Mu-jin couldn't express, posing with a smile that looked like a cry. The couple laughed, capturing a happy wedding photo. Memories end. The female neighbor approaches. Though it's the weekend, her children are busy, leaving Gyum Ah-yeon alone and bored. She invites the female neighbor for a drink. The neighbor, having another idea in mind, takes Gyum Ah-yeon for a manicure instead. Another neighbor mentions Beon Mu-jin in front of her, prompting Gyum Ah-yeon to change her expression immediately. Sensing the mood, the neighbors stop discussing further. Curiously, one neighbor outright asks if Gyum Ah-yeon would reconcile with Beon Mu-jin. Gyum Ah-yeon reaffirms she has no desire for reconciliation, and the two have made it clear. If possible, she would even introduce a girlfriend to Beon Mu-jin. The manicure and hair salon share the same shop. The neighbor from the third floor, also the hair salon owner, overhears Gyum Ah-yeon's words, feeling conflicted, and drinks heavily. She calls Gyum Ah-yeon, who comes downstairs to help her, escorting the drunk neighbor home. The neighbor, in her drunken state, expresses her envy of Gyum Ah-yeon's life. She falls asleep mid-sentence. Gyum Ah-yeon tidies up her messy room, picking up a photo of her and Beon Mu-jin from the floor, surprised to discover they know each other. The photo was taken in Thailand when Beon Mu-jin had fled to the country after causing trouble in South Korea. He met the neighbor there, and they soon parted ways, with Beon Mu-jin leaving all his assets to her. The neighbor had once been pregnant but miscarried accidentally. Seeing the photo unsettles Gyum Ah-yeon, often leaving her lost in thought. She recalls moving into the apartment at the same time as the third-floor neighbor, who was visibly pregnant and alone. One night, seeing the neighbor drunk and collapsed, Gyum Ah-yeon and her daughter helped her home. When the neighbor sobered up, Gyum Ah-yeon brought her seaweed soup, comforting her that losing the child wasn't her fault, just not meant to be yet. The neighbor cried in Gyum Ah-yeon's arms, and from then on, their relationship improved. Thinking this over, Gyum Ah-yeon goes to the hair salon, photo hidden behind her back, wanting to clarify her relationship with Beon Mu-jin. Gyum Ah-yeon talks a lot without coming to the point, eventually giving up and heading to a baseball field to vent. Her thoughts are chaotic, as if two figures are debating in her mind, one emotional, the other rational, comforting her. Remembering Beon Mu-jin's words that she was the only woman in his life, Gyum Ah-yeon feels nauseated. Meanwhile, Beon Mi-rae notices her mother's unusual behavior, cooking a meal entirely of eggs. Gyum Ah-yeon sits alone in the dark living room at night, facing a fan, with a Thai travel package advertisement playing on TV. Beon Mi-rae calls the third-floor neighbor, inquiring if her mother has been acting strangely. The neighbor suggests it might be menopause, but Byeon-mi-rae calculates her mother isn't of age yet. Byeon-mi-rae, having an urgent matter, hangs up and joins Nam Tae-pyong to handle a work issue. After work, they head to a nearby beach, where the strong sea breeze prompts Nam Tae-pyong to thoughtfully cover Byeon-mi-rae with a jacket. While the two were enjoying the view, Byeon-mu-jin was kneeling on the ground nearby, heartbroken over Gyum Aeon distancing herself from him. Feeling abandoned, he went to the seaside alone to drink. He invited the store owner to join him for a drink, and overheard the owner's conversation with his daughter, who was playfully asking for pocket money. Byeon-mu-jin envied this, a moment of happiness he had never experienced. Stimulated by this, he came to the seaside and yelled out loud. During this father-daughter encounter, Byeon-mu-jin simply advised Byeon-mi-rae to be careful on her way back to Seoul. Back at home, Byeon-mi-rae noticed the door camera had been replaced with a new model, clearly Byeon-mu-jin's doing. After resolving work issues and dealing with her unruly brother, who had skipped school and wasted 2 semesters' tuition on a business venture, believing their wealthy father would bail him out, Byeon-mi-rae arranged to meet Byeon-mu-jin at a shop. Byeon-mu-jin decided to leave, presenting a condo transfer application. This was what Byeon-mi-rae had hoped for, but she was not happy as imagined, instead feeling very angry. Whether Byeon-mu-jin appeared or left, it angered her. She angrily declared she would send her brother to live with Byeon-mu-jin for discipline. After leaving the shop and seeing her mother approaching, Byeon-mi-rae locked the shop door and hid with Byeon-mu-jin. After Gyum Aeon left, Byeon-mu-jin departed, but was caught by Gyum Aeon. They talked aside. She inquired about his activities in Thailand and accused him of impregnating and abandoning a neighbor. Realizing Gyum Aeon was jealous, Byeon-mu-jin teased her. Annoyed, Gyum Aeon cracked an egg on his head. Byeon-mu-jin, recognizing his ex-wife's jealousy, refused to reveal the truth. Gyum Aeon, frustrated, tried to distract herself with housework, but her thoughts returned to the issue after settling down. After cleaning her apartment, she swept the common area downstairs, where Byeon-mu-jin snatched the broom from her. Pointing to a car that often blocked others by parking improperly, causing Byeon-mi-rae to be late for work, she noted its owner was a muscular man who resolved issues by fighting. As this man raged downstairs, Byeon-mu-jin and his son appeared, the latter having been instructed to sticker the car. The man, underestimating Byeon-mu-jin, was swiftly subdued. Upstairs, Gyum Aeon and the neighbor from the 3rd floor rushed down upon hearing the commotion. The neighbor had earlier approached Gyum Aeon, guessing the photo was hers. Before she could explain that Byeon-mu-jin wasn't the father of her child, they were interrupted by the noise downstairs. The muscular man, intimidated, fled with his clothes. Shocked by her formidable ex-husband, Gyum Aeon returned home with him to continue their conversation, during which the neighbor mentioned knowing Byeon-mu-jin in Korea. He was unsuccessful in business in Korea and believed the country was not suitable for him. So he moved to Thailand. Later, his female neighbor got pregnant, and her boyfriend was irresponsible. She wanted to return to Korea but couldn't afford a plane ticket. In order to raise money, she reluctantly auditioned for a striptease performance. When Byeon-mu-jin learned about this, he rushed to stop her. The female neighbor lamented her encounter with a bad man, feeling she had no choice but to earn money this way. Byeon-mu-jin sympathized with her plight and gave her all his savings, allowing her to return to Korea and live well. The female neighbor's situation reminded him of Gyum Aeon, who also hadn't met the right person and had struggled, raising her child alone. The female neighbor kept a photo with Byeon-mu-jin for a reason. She was already pregnant when the photo was taken, and it was the only picture with her unborn child. When asked about Byeon-mu-jin's occupation abroad, the female neighbor was reluctant to speak. Gyum Aeon was very curious. Left with no choice, the neighbor showed a photo she took of Byeon-mu-jin selling goods. At that time, he was hired by a shoe store that liked his attractive ankles, making him a shoe model. He was asked to walk a few steps in high heels in a busy market. Gyum Aeon pressed for what happened next, but the female neighbor also didn't know why Byeon-mu-jin suddenly became wealthy. Both women were curious about how Byeon-mu-jin made so much money. Byeon-mu-jin, the person in question, returned home and began living with his son. His son was very happy, enjoying the freedom of walking around in underwear with only men at home. When his son needed to go out and borrowed Byeon-mu-jin's clothes, he discovered a suitcase. Byeon-mu-jin's expression changed, and he personally came to help his son pick clothes, then closed the wardrobe door. His men were waiting for him downstairs. While waiting, he wanted to smoke but forgot his lighter. The female neighbor came out, noticing he was looking for a lighter, and rummaged through her pockets. Unexpectedly, she took out a candy instead, having quit smoking years ago. After the female neighbor left, Bayon Mujin came down, his men sitting beside him feeling uneasy, fearing Guillaume might have said something. Bayon Mujin smiled meaningfully, realizing Guillaume was jealous. He saw hope, and frequently appeared before Guillaume, buying her favorite snacks, medicine, and blankets. While walking home, Bayon Mujin occasionally teased Guillaume, asking if she would remarry him. Suddenly, Guillaume's foot hurt. She suffered from plantar fasciitis, which caused sudden pain. Bayon Mujin had her sit down and massaged her foot, advising her to buy good shoes. They were not remarried yet, so he felt it was not auspicious to give her shoes directly. Guillaume was very happy. Bayon Mujin hadn't seen her smile in a long time. At night, sitting on the bed, Guillaume ate the snacks Bayon Mujin bought, feeling complicated. To clear her mind, she started washing her daughter's quilt. Bayon Mi took the opportunity to tell her mother that she had arranged a trip to Thailand for the weekend, feeling her mother liked it there and had planned the itinerary secretly. However, as competitors were launching a new product earlier, the supermarket couldn't fall behind and moved up the new product launch to this week. Bayon Mi was told to cancel her leave request for Friday. She did not want to cancel the trip and decided to launch the new product a day earlier, on Thursday. After finishing the work, she left with her mother for the trip. To ensure a smooth journey, Bayon Mi, tired, fell asleep in the car. Nam Taepyeong found her and, concerned about her driving while fatigued, drove her home himself. Bayon Mi wondered why Nam Taepyeong always found her at her most vulnerable moments. Feeling embarrassed, Nam Taepyeong was glad it was he who found her like this, not someone else. He admired Bayon Mi for her seriousness towards work, noting she had always been this way, not liking to delay things since many issues must eventually be faced. This realization struck Nam Taepyeong. Some things cannot be avoided and must be confronted eventually. Thinking this, Nam Taepyeong wore a black suit to his grandfather's memorial service. The president asked him to pay respects, but kneeling there, Nam Taepyeong put down his drink, refusing to continue the pretense with the president, and left the hall. It turns out the president and Nam Taepyeong are not father and son, but half-brothers. Meanwhile, Guillaume went out and met her son coming downstairs. She learned he wanted to live with Bayon Mujin and had decided to drop out of school. Shocked, she was even more surprised to find out Bayon Mi knew about this and had encouraged her brother to move in with their father. Feeling deceived, she went to play tennis. Bayon Mujin, hearing about this from his son, went to the tennis court to find her. They ended up at a pub. More than her son's issues, Jum-ayon wanted to know how her ex-husband had made so much money. Bayon Mujin assured her he was a law-abiding citizen, but refused to say more. The conversation turned back to their children. Jum-ayon felt guilty for making Bayon Mi take on family responsibilities too early, contrasting with her son, who, though an adult, still acted childishly. This made Jum-ayon feel even more remorseful towards Bayon Mi. Overwhelmed, she broke down crying, wishing her children could have responsible parents in their next lives and not suffer as they had. After drinking, Jum-ayon left for home, but ended up crying halfway there, not wanting to face Bayon Mi that night. Bayon Mujin took her to a hotel where they unexpectedly met Bayon Mi supporting a drunken Nam Taepyeong. There had been a company dinner, and Nam Taepyeong, feeling down, drank alone and collapsed outside the restaurant, found by Bayon Mi, who had to help him to the hotel. Seeing Guillaume and Bayon Mujin, Nam Taepyeong sobered up instantly. Guillaume, furious, confronted Nam Taepyeong, but Bayon Mujin intervened. Overwhelmed with anger, Guillaume grabbed her daughter's hair,